Hey guys, in today's video, we'll be going over how to install a flex post when working with our View series. This will apply to floor-to-ceiling applications. We will go over how to measure for, build, and install the flex post. Before getting started, I want to go over the purpose of the flex post. The flex post is used to make 90-degree turns within the layout of a project. When you receive the flex post, it will come with nothing attached to it. You'll need to take a look at the drawing to determine the configuration of the flex post. Wherever you have a View series wall coming off of the flex post, you'll have a View wall start attached to it. Here's an example of a flex post with View wall starts attached to it, making a 90-degree turn. The orientation in which the View wall starts are attached to the flex post will be dependent on the situation you have. We'll go over the situations later on in this video. Now, if you have a situation where you have our flex wall system coming off of the post, we will have flex studs attached to the flex post. If you have any questions on how to attach flex studs to the flex post, go ahead and check out the video on that. With the layout complete and the flex post locations determined, we can go ahead and measure for our flex post. To measure for the flex post, we'll measure from floor to ceiling. We'll want to measure the flex post so that it creates a tight fit to the ceiling. Once we have your measurement, we can go ahead and cut our flex post. Test fit the flex post to make sure it fits properly. Again, we want a nice tight fit to the ceiling. With the flex post fitting properly, we can now go over how to determine the length of the View wall starts attaching to the flex post, as well as the orientation of the View wall starts when attaching them to the flex post. For floor to ceiling applications, the View wall starts will run from floor to ceiling. Therefore, the length of the View wall starts will equal the length of the flex post. Once you have your wall starts cut, we can then determine the orientation in which the wall starts will be attached to the flex post. Before attaching the View wall start to the flex post, we need to go over the two sides of the View wall start. On the View wall start, there's a glass side that's designed to accept the fixed panes of glass, and there's the stud side designed to accept the door jamb for swing doors and finish covers for sliding doors. When determining how to orientate the wall start on the flex post, take a look at your drawing. Anytime that you have a swing door coming off a flex post or a sliding door coming off a flex post, you need to have the stud side of the wall start facing away from the flex posts. Anytime you have fixed panes of glass coming into a flex post, you need to make sure to have the glass side of the wall start facing away from the flex post. With the orientation of the View wall start covered, I can now show you how to attach a View wall start to a flex post. Before attaching the View wall starts to the flex post, inspect the flex post for any damages. If there are any damages on the flex post, you may be able to cover up those damages with the View wall starts depending on the configuration of the post. I'll start with the View wall start with the glass side of the wall start facing away from the post. Again, this is any time that you have fixed panes of glass going into the wall start at flex post locations. Before attaching the View wall start to the flex post, I'll go ahead and drill 1/4-inch holes in the center of the View wall start. We typically run 3 to 4 attaching screws when attaching the View wall start to a flex post. Once my holes have been pre-drilled, we'll place the wall start onto the flex post. The view wall start is the same width as the flex post, therefore we'll need to flush the edges of the view wall start with the edge of the flex post. Since the wall start is the same length as the flex post, we'll also need to flush each end of the wall start. With the wall start in place, we can use a hand clamp to help keep the wall start flush with the edges of the flex post. With the wall start in place, we can attach the view wall start to the flex post using the supplied 2.5-inch framing screws. On this side of the flex post, we'll be attaching the view wall start to the flex post with the stud side facing away from the flex post. Again, this is any time that you have a swing door coming off of the flex post or a sliding door sliding into the view wall start at a flex post. I've went ahead and pre-drilled my holes for my attaching screw locations. Something you'll also need to do is make sure to have the first hole at minimum 6 inches away from the top of the wall start. This will allow for the L bracket to slide into the view wall start. We'll go ahead and do the same thing we did for the other side. We'll place our view wall start on the flex post, making sure it is flush with the edges of the flex post. We'll make sure it's flush on each end. We'll use our hand clamp to keep the wall start flush with the edges of the post. And then we'll attach the wall start to the post using the 2.5-inch framing screw. With the flex post built, we can now go over how to attach the flex post to the framing that is attached to the floor and the ceiling. There are 3 different scenarios we'll be going over. The first scenario we will go over is when you have a swing door coming off a flex post. As a reminder, when you have swing door applications in our View series, we will have a flex track attached to the ceiling within the door opening locations. If you have any questions on how to frame for a swing door in our View series, go ahead and check out the video on that. Once you have a flex track attached to the ceiling with a flex L bracket slid into one end, you can then take your flex post with the stud side of the wall start facing away from the post and place it against the flex track attached to the ceiling. With the wall start in place, slide the flex L bracket into the center of the wall start and attach it using 3/4-inch framing screws. L bracket attached, make sure to create a tight fit between the wall start and the flex track and tighten the set screw. With the L bracket attached, the flex post is now attached to the framing. The next scenario we will go over is when you have a sliding door sliding into the view wall start attaching to a flex post. As a reminder, for View series sliding doors, we will have a view track and guide attached to the ceiling that will butt into the wall start. If you have any questions on this, go ahead and check out the video on framing for a sliding door in the View series. I've already went ahead and attached a view guide to the ceiling with a View L bracket installed. We will not be able to install the view track until we have the View L bracket attached to the view wall start. We'll also need to install the finish cover on the wall start before attaching the view track. So once you have the view guide attached to the ceiling, we can then bring our flex post with the view wall start attached and butt it up against the view guide. To hold the L bracket in place, we add an additional leveling bolt to the end of the view guide, which will be used to pinch the L bracket to the inside of the view guide. With the L bracket in place, bring the post and wall start tight to the view guide, making sure you create a flush finish between the view guide and the wall start. Once in place, slide your L bracket against the view wall start and attach it to the wall start using a 3/4 inch framing screw. With the L bracket attached to the wall start, make sure your wall start is tight to the view guide and tighten the leveling bolt to lock the L bracket in place. With the L bracket attached to the view wall start, the post is now connected to the framing. We will now go over how to install the finish cover. The finish cover will run from floor to ceiling. Since we have a view L bracket connecting the view guide to the view wall start, it will prevent the finish cover from going all the way up to the ceiling. Therefore, we'll need to notch out a section of the finish cover to allow it to bypass the view L bracket. Here's an example of the finish cover notched out for the view L bracket. To do this, all we'll need to do is mark center on the finish cover and create a 1/2 inch gap and a 1/2 inch deep. This will allow the finish cover to bypass the view L bracket and go all the way to the ceiling. With the finish cover prep, we can now get it installed. When you install the finish cover, it has to go in behind the view guide. Now, depending on your ceiling height, you may not be able to flex the finish cover enough to get it to go behind the view guide. So what you can do is you can loosen the leveling bolt holding the L bracket to bring the post and the view wall start away from the view guide. With the wall start away from the guide, you can then install the finish cover onto the wall start and then pull it back to the view guide and tighten the leveling bolt to lock it in place. To install the finish cover, you want to place it on the center of the wall start and use your rubber mallet to set it onto the wall start. Finish cover installed and the wall start back in the correct position, we can now install our view track. To install the view track, place it over the view guide and tight to the wall start. Now for this video, I'm only showing a small section of the door opening. As a reminder, for sliding door openings, we do not include leveling bolts within the walkthrough portion of the door opening. The only leveling bolt we will have is the leveling bolt that is used to hold the view L bracket in place. Again, if you have any questions on this, go ahead and reference the video on how to frame for a sliding door in our view series. We'll go ahead and place our view track over our view guide. We'll then use our 4-inch framing screw to attach the view track to the view guide, making sure we maintain a minimum 3/8 air gap across the sliding door opening. With the view track in place, this scenario is complete. The last scenario we will go over is when there are fixed panes of glass coming into a wall start attached to a flex post. For this situation, there will be a view track guide attached to the floor and the ceiling. I've already went ahead and attached a view guide to the floor and the ceiling and included the view L brackets. We will not be able to install the view track until the view guide is attached to the view wall start on the post. Once we have the view guide in place, we can then bring in our flex post with the glass side of the wall start facing towards the framing. Once in place, we can then attach the L brackets to the view wall start and then bring in our view track. Same as the previous scenario, we'll have an additional leveling bolt on the end of the view guide used to hold the view L bracket in place. With our L bracket in place, bring the view wall start tight to the view guide to create a tight fit between the view guide and the wall start. Then press the L bracket tight to the inside of the wall start. Then attach the L bracket using a 3/4 inch framing screw through one of the available holes in the L bracket. Once attached, tighten the leveling bolt to lock the L bracket in place. With the view guide attached to the view wall start, we can now install our view track. Before installing the view track, we need to make sure the leveling bolts are installed and that they're leveled properly. Once the leveling bolts are in place, take your view track and place it onto the view guide and tight to the wall start. Once in place, take your 4-inch framing screw and attach the view track to the view guide. With the view track in at the ceiling, we can now move to the floor and connect the post to the floor guide. On the floor, it'll be the same process as we just did at the ceiling. We'll need to make sure to have the view L bracket slid into the view guide with the additional leveling bolt. Once in place, we'll bring our view wall start tight to the view guide. We'll then slide the L bracket into the center of the wall start and attach the L bracket using a 3/4 inch framing screw. Once in place, tighten the additional leveling bolt to lock the L bracket in place. With the guide attached to the wall start, we can then adjust our leveling bolts for the view track so that the track is level, and then take our view track and place it onto the view guide and making it tight to the wall start. With the track installed, the installation is complete. This will be the conclusion of the video. If you have any questions on anything covered in this video, please contact our office.